Hello everyone, thanks for checking out my video. It's Goose coming at you with part 2 of the ZelNode setup guide. And in this episode, I'm going to show you how to set up your VPS, log into that VPS, and then install the necessary components to run your ZelNode and Flux. And then we'll go over to our Zelcore wallet and start the node. After that, we'll take a look at how to log into the node and then some other tools that are available for monitoring your node. So, this is all pretty straightforward, guys. We have made it as easy as possible, so just follow these steps and you should be up and running in no time. Let's get started. In our previous video, we left off with staking 10K Zell for a basic node. And on the Zell website, a basic node is going to require a virtual private server that has these minimum specs. 2 virtual cores, 4 gigs of RAM, 50 gigs of SSD space, and 2.5 terabytes of bandwidth. And I also had suggested a couple of different VPS providers, one of which was Vultr, and you can use this particular server for $20 a month, which will give us all of the stats that we need to meet that minimum requirement for a basic node. You can also check out Contabo, and for that, I would recommend the VPS M SSD, which is more than enough to handle a basic node. I would not recommend the VPS S. I've done that before and it sometimes fails the benchmarks, and it's just not worth the headaches of seeing your node go offline and then you have to go reset things. The VPS M will always give you enough resources. The one thing that you have to do with Contabo, and you'll see other people have had to do this before, is after you deploy a node through them, you will have to send them an email and request that they increase the read-write speed of your SSD. So you might want to take that into consideration. It's a little bit of an annoyance, but it is what it is. And every time I've done that, they have been very good about increasing the speed. If you don't do that, you'll find that your SSD will be too slow to pass the benchmarks. It needs to be really revved up. So we want to make sure that not only the developers who are using the network are having a good experience, we want to make sure that their users, the users of their apps running on the network, will also have a good experience. So we ensure through a program that runs on every ZelNode that it has those minimum benchmarks. It has to meet all of the criteria that we set forth here on the ZelNode tiers page. Okay, so do your research. Make sure you are going with a company that you're comfortable with, that gives you the best value, whatever you want. I am going to show you how to set up a server through Vultr because I like this service. I like that they've given me almost 100% uptime. If there's ever any kind of work that needs to be done on my server, I get notifications about that. The other thing is you can deploy them in multiple locations. So if you wanted to spin up 3, 4, or 5 Zell nodes, like basic nodes, you could do so in 5 different locations around the world. If you take a look here on their deploy new instance page, and if you've never signed up here, I'll leave a link down in the description. Just click on products and then the little plus sign, and then that'll take you right here to deploy new instance. And we're looking at cloud compute right here. And this is where you can go ahead and set it up for whatever location you want. I'm going to go ahead and choose Toronto because why not, right? And this is important. We're going to look at server type. Make sure you're on 64-bit OS, and then we're going to click on Ubuntu, and we're going to choose the 18.04 version. All right, this is the most tested version of Ubuntu Linux that works for the ZelNode. You could probably get away with a newer version, although it's not required. And the LTS, the long-term support edition here, is still good for, I think, a couple more years. So we're good there. No worries with running Ubuntu. And the next thing is we're going to have to select the server size. So let's choose our $20 a month, 2 CPUs, 4 gigs of RAM, and 3 gigs of bandwidth. Very good. The next thing is to go ahead and enter a server label. You can call this whatever you want. I'll just call it a Zell Basic. So I know because when I see in my list of servers, that's what this is, okay? And then that's all you got to do. If you want additional services, you can opt into these things. The ZelNodes do not use IPv6, so you don't even have to worry about adding support for that. And that's it. So we can go ahead and just deploy now. Once your VPS has been deployed, you can click on it in the list, and then you'll get this overview page, and that will give us some very important information for logging in to the VPS, including the IP address, the username, and password. And to log into this, I would recommend something very simple like PuTTY, which is a SSH or Telnet client that you can use. It's very lightweight. You can download the portable version right here. The 64-bit version is putty.exe. I'll leave a link down in the description. And we're going to use that program to access this particular server and then install the software. All right, so I already have mine down here on the taskbar. Let me go ahead and make this full screen. And now what we have are a couple of inputs. The first one is our host name or IP address. So what we're going to do is take this IP address right here, copy that, and then right-click, paste that here. If you want, you can save this session. I can call this my Zell basic node, and go ahead and click save. And then every time I need to go back to that node, I have it saved here, and that'll make it a lot easier to access it. The port is correct, 22, so we're good to go. Click on open, and now this will ask, are you sure you want to connect to this server? Well, yes, we are, because we actually put the IP address there, so we're good. Click on yes. Now it's asking me to log in as. So we know that login as is this username, root, and then the password here we can copy by clicking that little icon. Let's go ahead and type in root. And then if you want to paste whatever you copied, just right click anywhere inside this black screen, and that will automatically paste the password. You will not see it here. That's just the way it is, so that nobody can tell how many characters your password is. It's a nice security feature, but that's it. So I right clicked it, and then I hit enter. That should log me in. Okay. Right off the bat, it's giving me some important information, including the number of packages that can be updated, and then whether or not those are security updates. And you can go ahead and run an update right now. The script that we're going to use to install the ZelNode will do that for us. So we don't really have to do anything other than start the script. So let me go ahead and minimize this, pull open my cheat sheet here. This is the command that we're going to run. Thanks, X4. We love you. And then we're going to go ahead and copy this command right here. Minimize that. Let me blow this up for you. And then once again, just right click, and that will paste that whole command here. And then once we have it here, just hit enter. Please be patient with the script. If you hit enter and it looks like it's not doing anything, let it sit there for a while, and then you'll get this multi-toolbox menu. And we're just going to go down the line here. All right. The first thing that we need to do is install Docker. So go ahead and hit number 1. And it's asking you for your username. So you can go ahead and enter whatever username you want. I'm going to choose node op and go ahead and hit enter. And it will create a new user. And in doing this, it's going to ask you to enter a password for that user. So go ahead and enter whatever password you want. I would make sure it's a nice secure password with uppercase, lowercase, numbers, special characters, whatever's good for you. All right. Verify your password. Everything looks good. Now it is updating the system. Okay, now that Docker is installed, it's asking if we'd like to switch to our user account. I'm going to go ahead and select yes for this. And what it does is it actually dumps us back out to the command line. Let me just do this. And do take notice that it actually switched us over to our new username. Okay. Now that we've installed Docker, what we're going to do is run that same script again. So go ahead and copy and paste that same line once again. Hit enter. The next step is number 2, install the ZelNode. Now this is asking us for our password, so that doesn't have to ask for our password ever again. All right, so go ahead and type that in and hit enter. All right, and now it's going to go ahead and install all of the necessary components to run a ZelNode. This is asking us if we want to continue using port 22 for our SSH login. If you want to change this, you can. Just select no and enter a different port number, but for all intents and purposes, you can leave this as 22. That is the default port. As for swap files, I do find that these can be somewhat helpful, and it really depends on your use case. I don't think it's a bad idea to have one, and we do have 30 gigabytes more hard drive space than we need, so I don't see it as being a problem to have a swap file. So I'm going to go ahead and say yes here. But if you're running a particular server that has exactly 50 gigs, then you're going to run into a little bit of a crunch there. So don't use any of your hard drive space for a swap file. But in our case, we've got quite a bit to spare, so I'm going to go ahead and say yes. And now the script is asking for our ZelNode private key. Now this is very important because this is the way the full node wallet, which we set up in the previous video, can communicate with the ZelNode. It's like the way they sort of have a handshake, right? And verify that the control wallet is the one that has the collateral and that the ZelNode will take commands from that control wallet. So how do we get our ZelNode private key? Well, good question. We go back over to Zellcore, sign into your account, click on Zell, go over here to the three dots and open up the full node. And once inside the full node wallet, we can see our 10,000 Zell staked on this address, which we labeled basic node. And the rest of this is pretty academic. All we have to do is on this ZelNode's menu, click this little wizard's hat. Now the wizard will give you this option to back up your addresses. I would recommend backing up all of your addresses. You can go ahead and choose a path here. I'll just go ahead and put them on the desktop. Click OK, and then choose backup all addresses. And what that's done is dropped all of our private keys into a text file on our desktop. You can take that text file, put it on a flash drive or an encrypted drive, and save it in a very secure location, because if you store a significant amount of Zell there, you'll always be able to access your Zell using those private keys. Next, we're ready to set up the particular node that we're using. So in our case, we're going to click on Basic. And right here, it's asking for the IP address for our basic node. So I'm going to go ahead and go back over to Volter and copy my IP address, and then go ahead and Control V, paste it right there. You want to leave this :16125, okay? So this is how it should look: the IP address, colon, and the port number. The next step, go ahead and click on here. And now this is already showing us that we have enough stake in that particular address to use it for a basic node. It's already found it. So we can go ahead and click on that particular address. We can give it a name. We'll call that basic. And then continue with ZelNode setup. And we're going to pause here for just a minute because we're going to need some information from this page. First of all, this is our private key. This private key is used for setting up basic ZelNode. All right, so what we're going to do is click this and copy it. And then I'm going to tab back over to my putty and enter the private key here. Just right click, and that will paste the private key there. Then I can hit enter. All right, now it's asking for my collateral transaction ID. All right, so once again, I'm going to tab back over to Zellcore, and you can see right here your ZelNode output transaction ID is, and I can click this to copy. Okay, tab back over. I'm going to right click here and paste that transaction ID. Hit enter for OK. And now it's looking for the output index, which is usually a 0 or a 1. I go over here. You can see the output index is 0. All right, so I can just tab back, put a 0, hit OK, and it will continue the rest of the installation process. What we've basically done there is we have told the ZelNode the key for the wallet that we're using to control that node, and we've also given it the transaction ID for our staking address. All right, so it's looking at that particular transaction ID to verify that the 10,000 zell needed to run this node is actually there. Okay, and just like you can use a bootstrap file for speeding up the syncing process on your full node wallet, you can also do the same thing here for the ZelNode. And there are two different ways you can do this. If you want to provide your own source of a bootstrap file, you can do that. I would recommend just going with option 1, and that will download the latest version that they have available automatically. So I'm going to go ahead and just default there, number 1. After the bootstrap has been extracted, it's going to ask you if you want to remove the zip file. And you can do that if you want, but I have more than enough storage space to keep it there. So I'm just going to go ahead and say no and basically save that file so that if I ever need to reload it again, I could. And now the script is asking for our Zell ID. This is also important because if you want to do any type of administration functions on your Zell node, like for instance, update Zell cache, update Zell Flux, install an app, all those kind of things, then you're going to have your Zell ID here and then log into your node with your Zell ID. So to make that happen, we're just going to tab back over to Zell Core. I'm going to go ahead and save and continue here because we're done with this information. And then I'll close this. We're not going to activate the node yet. Then click on this little thumbprint here, and it says sign message. And what we want to do is just copy our signing address. That's our Zell ID. All right, copied that. I can cancel this now. We'll tab back over and then just right click to paste our Zell ID right there and hit enter. Okay, one more question here is to restore the MongoDB data table from a bootstrap. And in this case, I'm going to go ahead and select no because there was a recent update to Zell Flux which pretty much forced a re-indexing of the Mongo data table. So we're going to let it update itself from scratch. This may take the better part of a day for a basic node, but that's okay. We want it to get the most up-to-date, fresh copy of the database. I'm going to go ahead and say no. And then it wants to know if we'd like to install Watchdog for ZelNode. This is actually a really important service to make sure that your node stays running in case one of the daemon services that are running in the background, for whatever reason, crashes. If that happens, the Watchdog will restart it, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and say yes to this. Okay, and just like that, we have a brand new ZelNode with Flux installed and running. It even gives us the duration, 25 minutes, 32 seconds. Pretty reasonable. We had some longer download times there for the blockchain and some of the other features that needed to be set up. But the whole process is complete. It went without a hitch. So special thanks to XK4 for the script. And now what we need to do is go ahead and start this node from our Zell Core wallet. So now that we have this little basic node listed here in our ZelNodes column, all I have to do is click the little 3 dots and go to Start. And it says successfully started ZelNode Basic. Now we're seeing that this node is not confirmed. This is just a convenience message that pops up. It's one of the features that Volter coded into Zell Core so that node operators will know whether or not their nodes are on or offline. This is not yet confirmed, but it is on its way to being confirmed. So we're going to go ahead and close that out. And we have to wait for one block confirmation in order for the node to switch its status from offline to started. Once it's gone started, then we know it's on its way to being confirmed. In the meantime, let's go ahead and log in to our Zell node. To do that, I'm going to go tab back over to our PuTTY instance, and at the very bottom, it has given us this URL, which is the IP address and this port number. So I'm going to go ahead and select that. And then I'm going to use Microsoft Edge browser for this. You could use Edge, you can use Chrome, you can use Chromium, Brave, but you really can't get away with using Firefox right now because of the way the WebSockets communicate. So I'm going to go ahead and paste in my IP address and port number, and that will pull up my ZelNode. So here we are. It even tells us our Zell ID. That's how the node knows that this is the owner of that node. So what we're going to do is log in using that Zell ID. And it's so simple to do this. Just click on Zell ID. If you've never done this before, it's going to ask if you want to enable switch apps. So go ahead and select yes. All right, now that put us over here in Zellcore. And Zell is asking us to sign this message. So we go ahead and click sign and send. The message was signed and sent. Here's our signature. If we tab back over to Edge, now we're logged in. But here's the good news. It says the status, ZelNode has just been started. So if we go back over here to Zellcore, I can close this down and take a look. Here's our status started. So that means at least one block went through to verify our ZelNode. And then after another one or two, we should see our ZelNode go confirmed. But while we're here, we might as well take a look at some of the administrative functions that we can run through this interface. And the one I'm going to focus on is Zell Admin, where you can go ahead and click on Manage Flux. And this gives you a whole bunch of new features that were recently added, including Update Flux, Rebuild Zell Front. In most cases, you don't need to rebuild Zell Front. You can reindex the Flux databases. In fact, that's already underway right now. And there are a few other features here. Really, the main one that you'll be looking at, if there's ever an update to Flux, would be right here. Just click this button and everything else would be taken care of. The other thing that you may need to do at some point would be manage Zell Cache, because if there is an upgrade to the blockchain software, the Zell Cache binaries, then you can go ahead and click on Update Zell Cache here. You can also restart your daemon process, which I think is a very helpful feature, because if you don't want to log into you don't have to use PuTTY or SSH to log into your node and restart some of these processes. You can do it right here. And we go over here to Zell Bench. And this is useful because this will actually give us some of the benchmarks. In fact, if you want to look at Zell Bench specifics, just go over to the Zell Bench tab, take a look at benchmarks, and then get status. All right, and that will tell us exactly what benchmarking status we have. Of course, we're online. It's been given this mark, which is basic, and the back end is connected. So for all intents and purposes, this has completely passed all scores. Click on Flux again and check it out, guys. Our status, ZelNode is working correctly. So we have done everything that we need to do to get this node running. Over here in Zellcore, we can see our basic is now status confirmed. And just like that, our new node is up and running on the network and ready to accept applications. Isn't that cool? Now, the same process can be used for any of the 3 tiers. The only thing that you'll have to change is the amount of Zell that you stake, and make sure that your VPS has the minimum specs required for that particular tier. One other feature you may consider, especially when it comes to monitoring your nodes, like with a mobile device, would be Zellcore Plus. With Zellcore Plus, you have access to a whole slew of features within Zellcore. For instance, if we go to the exchanges, you'll be able to connect your personal accounts with all of these third-party exchanges, from Binance to Kraken, Bittrex, Stex, Gemini, KuCoin, and the Binance DEX, although the Binance DEX is free. You don't have to use Zellcore Plus to have access to Binance DEX. But all of these other exchanges you have access to with Zellcore Plus, and you can sync the Zellcore wallet to these exchanges and use the exchange interface that was built for the wallet. So if you want to trade right here within Zellcore, that's very easy to do. And you can link all of your favorite accounts right there, and it's secure, all done through the API. I'm going to exit this. Another feature is the ZelNodes app. This is great because it gives you a complete overview of all the nodes running on the network. And we can zoom into the map here, and you can click on any one of these to see more information. But what I really like is you can see your own ZelNodes. Here it is, my ZelNodes. This is my basic node, which we just started. You can see the status is confirmed, what tier it is, and then it will show you how many Zell you have been rewarded over these different periods, the 31 days, 7 days, and 24-hour periods. So you can keep track of the type of rewards you're getting with that particular node. If you have different tiers, you can see which tiers are doing better than others or what have you. So it's a really great way of keeping track of your nodes. And if you want to see what some of these other nodes are, you can click on any one of these, right? So for instance, here we have another one that's hosted at Volter. And if you want to go over here to this location, there's one hosted by My Republic. Get over here, this one's Beijing. Got one in, it looks like India here, from DigitalOcean. Let's see, who do we have over here? Looks like somebody in New Zealand. Here's a basic node in New Zealand. And this gives you all the stats of that particular node. Not only that, you can go ahead and click on Open Zell Flux and log into that node if you want. So just imagine the potential here for developers who want to choose where in the world they deploy their applications. That's going to be really cool. If you want to have access to this, all you need is a Zell Core Plus account. Click on the apps and then click on Zell Core Plus, and then you can sign up for a Zell Core Plus account. You can pay in Zell, you can pay in Bitcoin, Ethereum. And it is for the low price of $4 a month. You get all these great features. You can choose to do a 12-month annual subscription if you like. That's certainly an option here. You can, save 20% by a yearly subscription. And that will also enable you to very simply, from here, sync up your nodes to your cell phone. So at the very top of the ZelNodes app, I can click on Add ZelNodes to Zell Core Mobile. And what that'll do is give me a QR code that I scan with my Zell Core wallet on my phone, and then that will go ahead and add my IP addresses and stuff for all the Zell nodes so I can track it on my phone. So it makes it really easy to stay up to speed on what's going on with your particular node, and then you can track the progress as well. And that's it for episode 2 of how to set up a Zell node. We went over the whole process of deploying your VPS, logging in and installing all the necessary software to run Flux. And then we took a look at how to start that node from our Zell Core full node wallet, as well as some of the different features available for monitoring a Zell node, including how to do it with your mobile device. So I hope you found that helpful. In the next episode, we're going to take a look at how easy it is to install a local application on your node. We have folding at home, and then we'll also take a look at how to register and deploy your own application on the Flux network. I hope you liked this video. If so, please give us a thumbs up. Make sure you hit the subscribe bar, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Thanks.